So it's an interesting choice then.
I've not looked. How many riders do you have?
8. 8.
And they're sending all the split. So they're looking at different prospects. Look, it really depends on the relationships with the riders and whether they put Belgium first or whether they put themselves first. We've seen this happen in World Championships with especially the Italians. And obviously, when looking back over the years, when Rui Costa from Portugal won the World Championships with Perito Rodriguez and Valverde not kind of helping each other out for riding for Spain.
Yeah.
So these things do happen in World Championships, and it's fascinating to watch. And I really love watching the Olympic Games. I've ridden the Olympics myself. The dynamics of small teams, I think, is fascinating, and it was fascinating to watch. And it was interesting to see mistakes were made. No race radios, all that sort of stuff. So, it was really interesting for me to watch the race. But, yeah, for the Euros coming up, it'll be an interesting watch for the Belgians. And as we've seen, the combination between Wout van Aert and Evenepoel has really flourished this year. But can you think when the Worlds were in Belgium a few years ago, it didn't actually happen?
No, that was for Alaphilippe, of course, in Leuven. Yeah, there was also a little bit of talking left to be done, is what Sven van Toerenhout said, between Wout van Aert and, was it Jasper Philipsen, with that little bit of an issue they had in the Tour de France.
What, the movement?
Yeah, so they still have to discuss that. If you follow Belgian newspapers, which of course I do throughout the year, this is always in the run-up to the World Championships, and now first Europeans that are like 2 weeks before the Worlds. It's two completely different circuits, so we're going to have two completely different teams. Now, Evenepoel, by the way, is not going to be at the European Championships for the time trial. Lotte Kopecky is, and she's not going to do the road race. But sadly, Brian, I read that Team GB is not going to the Euros, so we won't have Josh Tarling on the start line. Maybe that was a rumour, maybe it's not been confirmed just yet, but it would be a big shame if that was indeed the case. But before we discuss any other subjects and the amount of ouzo that you had on roads, let's look at the final kilometres first, because this is where it's going to happen for the bunch sprint. We're about 1.5 kilometres from the finish line here. Just give us your observations.
Well, it's a good opportunity for riders to actually kind of see what they're up against. And, we get the traditional kind of concrete roads. Can't see too much of a gap in the middle, so nothing to worry about now. But I think position is obviously going to be a key to this final. And with it not being maybe the fastest of stages, the first stage, everybody's that bit fresher as well. So I think it's going to be frenetic a little bit, very difficult to control. We're just coming up to this last kilometre now, and this is the crucial bit now, this kind of left-hander here. You see them all kind of slowing up, the barrier coming out on the right-hand side. So this is kind of last kilometre, the last kind of main corner. We come on to this kind of fairly wide road, this kind of main roads, all the way into kind of the finishing line here. So it's wide enough. It's just that last corner that could be a little bit of a... When you go into it with speeds, if you're not quite there, you have to kind of bang the brakes on. And if you come out this corner with speed with riders in front of you, you can kind of...
Yeah, نبع البيني هيك لايف يزر الله نبع البيني.
As we can see from the side of the road, no real wind. They're kind of fanning across to the left-hand side, which would suggest a slight wind from the right-hand side. As we go round this kind of final corner, I said the final kind of left-hander, we do stay in the main road. As we start to meander at 500 metres ago, it does start to kind of kick up ever so slightly through the finishing line. So I think it's a case of make sure you're in the right position, make sure you don't get kind of blocked in. But it's maybe a kind of sit and wait until the last kind of 150 metres ago. You can't see it now, you can see it a little bit from behind. It does start to kind of drag up ever so slightly to the finishing line.
نبع البيني use it to renew the ban. نبع البيني لو مع الجميل له.
It's nice to have these barriers without feet there. We don't have the boat plan barriers right here. Those yellow ones that tend to bounce back just a little bit. But this is our first group here in the streets of Bilzen, just outside of a cafe. That is very convenient on a day like this. Like I said, 26, 27 degrees, which is around the 80 Fahrenheit mark for those of you joining us on Max in the USA. Welcome. And I have confirmation that Jordi Bouts
share nagwarkum kaga share gor hare share nagwar nandras kuladna
the breakaway across the line is the new leader in the combativity classification. It's called the Super 8 jersey, and you might remember that from the Tour of Belgium. The Tour of Belgium has the same organizer, so they just kind of copy-pasted that result in this one. This is Arnaud Delis. We saw him on, what was it, Sunday in the Bretagne Classic, Bretagne Classique West France. It has a rather long name nowadays. 4th place for him, that race.
yallokum bin rew na lokum bin rew kumala
Joke there, Brian? I wonder what this
bin na lokum bijigna
maybe he learned new Flemish words that he's going to share with Arnaud.
Yeah, so I think it's always interesting, isn't it? I think the common language there has to be English, but I'm pretty sure that knowing some of the Eritreans in the past, they will try and learn the kind of local language, which, for, a bit of kind of Dutch there. So he will try a little bit, but, nice to see, and most bike riders are like this. They're charming at the moment, but in 60 kilometres time, maybe a little bit less.
They're less charming. I was talking about Arnaud Delis, who was 4th in the Grand Prix Plouet, or Bretagne Classic as it's now called. Wonderful solo victory there by Mark Hirschi, doubling up after his
Hamsan shumantaj humalo
fantastic break.
Hamsan shumantaj humalo kilometer.
Super young Frenchman, mountain biker road racing on Soudal Quickstep. Second place for him and third for Magnus Kort.
Bodo rew kumala guys kemelo
was 5th in what is
tawalonka like goro hare share nagwarkum like nagwarkum kilashi
a week off on holiday and then go to prepare for, in a way, is a little bit of a shame with the form that Timonais had. Playing 260 kilometers, winning 3 stages in Poland, but they decided to stick to the plan, start the cyclocross season in Beringen, which is, from the top of my head, 8th of October. So a rather early cyclocross start for Timonais. So no European Championships, no Worlds either. He might do the occasional road race still, is what his trainer said, but only in preparation for the cyclocross season. So a full cyclocross season again for Timonais. But yeah, Brian, after that Tour of Poland, we've seen him win in the Tour of Switzerland, we've seen him win in Norway, we've seen him win in Hungary, we've seen him win in Romandy. The question on everybody's mind, and there's been a lot of discussion with his dad and also in the Belgian media, how far can this kid go? He's 21.
Yeah, I think we can do maybe a little bit of a similarity between Tom Pidcock and Timonais, and I think it's important that, in Tom Pidcock's case, he does cyclocross, mountain biking, road racing.
ጸልሚ ትረያ kumala
He mixes it up a little bit, and as far as I'm concerned, I used to do a lot of that in the winter training. I used to do, weight training. I used to do aerobics. In Glasgow, I used to go to aerobics in Kelvinside, where there was about 200 people doing aerobics at the one time in this big hall, and the atmosphere was fantastic.
Did you have fluorescent clothing on?
Might have been glow sticks, they call that a rave, but this was actually aerobics. I've done that sort of stuff in the past, but five-a-side football. I was actually talking to someone about football when I was over in Rhodes. St Murmur played Celtic, and I went into this bar to watch the game, and there was a Celtic man there, and we were kind of talking about these things about, fitness levels and how he was still kind of playing a little bit five-a-side. And I said, yeah, I used to play five-a-side. He used to say, as a cyclist, you go and go because you don't play football. So after 10 minutes, everybody was begging to go because they were out of puff. But yeah, I used to kind of mix it up a little bit, a bit of mountain biking, a wee bit of kind of cyclocross and all this sort of stuff. And I think keeping that kind of mind.
أجي كم يالو كم يراك مالك
There is a bit of an argument with Thibaut Nice that why doesn't he concentrate on the roads and look at what he's been doing this year. He's been doing fantastically well. But then again, he's so young, and you have to keep that mind still, wanting more and
بينا له عباك جيل له بينا إذا عباك جيل ترى مسألة
disciplines. It works for Tom Pidcock. I don't think for me anyway. I don't think Tom Pidcock is a Grand Tour contender. I think he should go back to looking at stage wins.
ولا عجب إله
Best. He's brilliant in the mountain bike. Showed that in the Olympics this year. So he likes to do different disciplines. And the same with a lot of these riders in here. We talk about cyclocross. We talk about Mathieu van der Poel, cyclocross and road racing. If you can kind of mix it up, then you keep your mind fresh. Because if you're a road rider and you're riding on the road day in, day out, all year long, same roads, training camps, you can get
okay
a mental block.
Okay, good. Enjoy go robo السكترة مع التداقور على مع التقى 55 تليفون على كيلومتر كعبة جوجل لازم هذا ملوني حد دقيقة 4 قالت مالتي.
He's in Greece, with his trainer. He's in Italy. He's in Isle of Man. He's in England. He moves around because he needs to keep things quite fresh, and that's what.
Share نقولكم قاعد يفولو تسلزلو. Share نقولكم كيرام هلا يفولو تسلزلو شيء.
A lot of riders just need these kind of changes and.
Share on Facebook تعاورنا أخلو قبل أشير قورة هم دالته.
Doing cyclocross. It's obviously working for him. Whether he decides to concentrate on roads in 1 or 2 years.
بينا بزع عباك جلله. عباك جلله بينا.
There's always two certainties when you're commentating with Brian Smith. First, he mentioned St. Mirren, and secondly, there is going to be a dad joke at a certain point. You can notice that after like 14 days.
جدا
Brian, I'm so happy.
جدا جامبر ترى توا
Maybe
قالورة.
that'll wear off tomorrow. That's quite possible, but today I'm really happy.
I was after 5-10 minutes.
Oh well. Yeah, maybe we can go over the start list just before we hit the Slingerberg. I got a lovely question from a viewer. He said, the Slingerberg, wasn't that in the Netherlands? Yes, it was. It is also one of the first hills, of course, of the Amstel Gold Race. This one is at Cannes. We'll be there in 7-ish kilometers. The one in the Netherlands is just across the border, because if you look at the map, Maastricht is just across the border from here. That part of, a little bit of shoulder rubbing there. That's where we are here in Belgium. So, we're almost hugging the border right here. Yeah, the sprinters. Yuri Team Emirates. Juan Molano would be one of their fast men. Jasper Philipsen is here for Alpecin de Koning. Tim Merlier for Soudal Quickstep. William Gremay and Gerben Thijssen for Intermarché-Wanty. Olaf Kooi is here together with Christophe Laporte. Lidl Trek have got Jonathan Milan. Lotte Destiny with Arnaud Delis. Bahrain Victorious with Bauhaus, Nikias Arns as two of their fastest riders. Looking at the Ineos Grenadiers, could add Ilya Viviani to that, but in this field, I'm not 100% sure. Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe of Sam Welsford, of course, comes from the boots in Paris with an Olympic gold medal. But they also have Ryan Mullen there. Arkea B&B with Arnaud Demar. Cofidis with Milan Fretin, Axel Zingle as their fast riders. Decathlon with Sam Bennett. I just transferred Sam Bennett to Red Bull, but he is, of course, with Decathlon. EF Education, wouldn't say they have an all-out sprinter here. And Movistar, Fernando Gaviria, DSM, Fabio Jacobsen, Dylan Groenewegen, Jaco and Lula. Just doesn't end, does it? Astana are here with Max Kanter.
بينا عباك جلله. بيني عباك جلله. زيهم هاديهم زلون دي
good
ما
sprint.
حنت دقن
Ja,
أربعة
Michael
ثلاثة
zei dat.
نحن قربا يمدلو بزح يكون هاديهم دلو
I think that is one of the riders we might have expected on the Tudor cycling team, but he's not here. And I think that is basically the who is who in global sprinting. So missing out are basically Brian Kokar, Wout van Aert, and the man currently winning races as he should in the Tour of Hainan, and that is Jakob Bareczko.
For them, in the first stage that Biniam Girmay won in the Tour, they said they were riding for Tyson and Girmay won, so we might have the same scenario here, but you know, I kind of doubt it. It's one of these situations where some teams have this
بينيام جرماي
ability
سؤالهم
to look
بينيام
after
جرماي
the different
باللوريو
sprinters, and that's the way to kind of keep them happy when you have many sprinters in different teams. But I think Girmay is such a great rider, and what he did at the Tour de France.
زعبان بينيام زارو دلو تاريخه وعوتنا بينيام زارو باللوريو
I think this could be a little bit kind of payback. So let's see how that develops, and if Girmay said that, then I think that's their best option.
152 right now for our 5 leaders, with 4 riders from Belgium and 1 from France. This is where we started. The bridge over the Albert Canal. Earlier today, and also the team presentation yesterday. This is a good shot, Brian, like this.
Just look at the speeds.
Also that bike path alongside the canal,
No,
doing intervals. Sorry?
Yeah, I was just saying I was kind of taken back with the speed of the riders there, but obviously not of the boat, just taking its kind of meandering up the canal there.
Here we are on our way to the Slingerberg, or the Côte de Cannes, as it's called here. We've got some rather spectacular weather for this entire race. I don't think late August already counts as an Indian summer, but these are the temperatures that we can expect throughout the week. A little bit hotter even on the Thursday and Friday, going towards that 30-degree mark, so the 90-degree Fahrenheit mark. No rain predicted, so perfect weather circumstances for this race. The Renewey Tour. If you look at the history of the race, first race was back in 2005. That was won by Bobby Julich, the American, ahead of Erik Dekker. Stefan Schumacher, Gutierrez, Boris Mohoric, Laurens de Plus. Mathieu van der Poel and Sonny Colbrelli. Those are the winners of this race. That was called the Benelux Tour in the past. Sadly, there's only a few kilometers in the Netherlands this year. That is going to be on stage 4 when we start in the province of Zeeland, in Oostburg, just a couple of kilometers, because organizing a bike race in the Netherlands is becoming almost impossible. I think from the top of my head we have 5 pro races in the Netherlands, so that is 0.1 and up. And the Belgians have 2 pro races only today. they have this one, which is a World Tour race, and then they have the Muur Classic, which is basically a few loops around the Bosberg and the Muur van Gerardsbergen, where we also have World Tour teams at the start and pro teams. So, yeah, it's not really equal distribution of pro races. In the Netherlands, it had everything to do with the fact that obtaining a license to organize a bike race is becoming rather impossible with environmental issues, nitrogen deposition, availability of the police. Sadly, we have a crash to report here. Ooh, that's Dan Holer. He is communicating immediately there with the team car, Dan Holer. One of the 4 Olympians for the Netherlands in Paris. But yeah, organising a bike race in the Netherlands, we sadly say goodbye to the Ronde van Drenthe. The men's race was already off the calendar and the women's race is as well. But also here in Belgium, Brian, we see more and more that we are racing on circuits. This
بين عباية جلة guys بين عباية جلة له توم
60 kilometer
توم
circuit. We
زهادة
have a
مغانا
circuit
يدغن
on
ساسان حمشان كالت
Friday,
قبل
on
تفللي
Saturday, on Sunday.
سلازي
It's
فوراتها كنرينا
easier
مات
to
معت
safeguard. It's more interesting for the spectators, for your VIP packages. You see the riders more times. Yeah, and getting from A to B, where you have to take into account so many communities, so many local councils, politicians, etc. This is that crash. Might have hit the curbstone. Also one of the riders of DSM there.
I think this is always a problem when you race in Belgium. See the difference between the something that you really have to take care of.
ما يبولاتها بهجيم كبورو تقطع غدا 40 شمت تريفو لو كيلومتر
Most definitely. We did have a strike last year, not in bowling, but an actual strike because the riders deemed the course unsafe. But yeah, Van der Poel is moving to the front right now on the Slingerberg. Yeah, there are 2 Slingerbergen, one in the Netherlands, one in Belgium. Slingeren is the Dutch word for meandering, and that's your explanation for it. It's a really gentle climb as well. Kind of depends on how fast you want to ride it, but it's not
بنيام نحني ولا حتى كنا بنيام نوري حرت قادة ما يودوتني بنيام ولا حتى كنا
But yes, circuit races is the way forward, A to B, with all the different councils, regional, provincial, to take into account the police of different regions as well. So yeah, also on the highest level like this one, we see more and more circuit races.
Surprised at this here, Filippo Ganna just at the back there.
Filippo Ganna is photo Ramsey.
Just looked unhappy. He's one of the riders that's very capable of kind of slingshotting himself to a victory.
وقتل همشة مع الديزكات وردن همشة مع
I
الديزكات
kind of feel sorry. I've got a lot of respect for Elia Viviani from what he's done in cycling, but it was only a matter of 5-6 years ago that we were putting a green highlighter through his name in every bunch finish. He isn't quite there.
ناي معاسيكم تحت زلهم نايلو معاتي حجي لك كتا لايف رألو
definitely still got the track from what I see in the Olympics, still up there, and he's in a glittering career. But it's just a shame when I see his name in the start sheet, and I know that English Grenadiers have not got too much.
زيوم توم هادي يوم زلهم وبزح سميات غارمتي أبلهم تفل اللي كا نايدان سلسان كايت أيزلو سلزي بزح يكون دلو درجة مست عباك جلس أتكلم عن دلو مات توم كأنه كلهم عباك جيلن دلو بعد فاندر بول بيني جرماي كلهم توم على بعد فيليبسن دلو كلهم حتى عباك جيلا بحسب على
both on the communication and also with his hand on that collarbone. Emilia Viviani was 9th in the Madison. 2nd, of course, was it Consoni in the Madison? There was this crash, sadly, for him. And the Portuguese won the golden medal with Rui Oliveira. He's racing here as well for UE Team Emirates and Yuri Leitao. Very narrow roads here.
زفلت أسبوع عندنا شير تجيكم ما دبلت هناك أنا شير قبرك اللي معناته واي فاي لحد بيعت ولا متى كيدك تبغى كتير إنت أصحابكم نسخهم شير قبر معهم شيء زفلت أسبوع حجنا نقرأ مثلاً
It's where we were with the Tour de France Femmes as well. Our stage from Valkenburg to, was it Bastogne? I think it was. Same region. But circuit racing is sadly the way forward. In the Netherlands, it's so if you have a circuit, of the most important reasons.
Well, this is a big enough circuit to make it count, and I've been involved in many races in the past where you come on to a finish and it's just a few kilometres round, and if the breakaway's got 5-6 minutes coming onto it in the stage race, then it can cause problems. But this is about 60 kilometres in length, and I think Belgium is renowned for its kermesse racing, and that is just circuits, and pretty much every town they do circuits around the main square church. Normally kind of 12-15 kilometres, and they do laps around there for not even a 4-hour race. It's kind of 160 kilometres normally. They do it in about 3.5 hours. It's super fast. There's betting. There's first 30 places count, so you're always kind of counting and trying to get yourself.
وتا كودا 4 سنة تريفو
But
الله كيلومتر.
the kind of bread and
كم
butter
تريو
of Belgian racing, and no real surprise that a lot of organisers are going for the kind of circuits. I know the Tour of Britain is coming up. The first stage is a circuit around Kelso in Scotland, so they're wanting to kind of show off their region, and that's important for them. I think over the years, Tour of Britain is always about the regions, so the regions want to showcase their region on television.
It's been a little bit of a hit and miss season for him. Sometimes you think he's going to be there, and sometimes you don't expect him, and then he is going to be there. A few good results in the Tour of Poland. Best result was a 3rd place in the final stage in Krakow. They had some good sprints in the Belgian Tour as well, in the ZLM Tour, but there's only been two wins actually. One in the Algarve, that was back in February, and the other one in Trofeo Palma, and that was
Binam is in the peloton.
At the end of
Binam is in the
January.
peloton مش هتعب باكو جل الله ما
Yeah, the great start of the year, especially that the stage you won in Algarve, you won it hands down. Year. That he needed either a long and hard race where he had more power left at the end, but I would say at the start of the year, looking at Gurmai and Tyson, on a very flat finish, I would go Tyson, right? Just like we talked about today, I'd go Tyson, but I think Gurmai's definitely stepped up this year in the flatter finishes, and I think that confidence in winning that sprint, because I think he said it after he won that first stage that they were riding for Gerben Tyson, and he found himself there. Gerben Tyson had been kind of washed away a little bit, and he did his own sprint and won. I think he came of age in the Tour de France this year for sure.
Yeah, it was one for the ages. I read a really interesting. interview with Sabuk Grimay, the Ethiopian rider on Google Peloton, which is a lovely website which really highlights the riders from around the world, from Asia to Africa to South America, both men and women's racing, by the way. And Sabuk Grimay, former rider of Jake Lula, amongst others.
Every now and again, but look at what we're doing now. I can even remember having raced in the States that it took a while. Okay, they kind of Greg LeMond, but we start to see more and more in breakthrough of American riders, and we've got some quality American riders in a peloton these days. So it does take a little bit of time. Africans haven't worked with them for many years. I think, especially in Eritrea, Daniel Tekle-Hemened was the kind of trailblazer. Good to see Mahawi Kudish still up there in some races as well. I think he's over in Henan racing there. Yep. So they're the kind of trailblazers, and that's what I did as a team. I was putting Daniel Tekle-Hemened in next to the likes of Bosenhagen, who's retiring at the end of the year. He just announced that recently. Sad to see him go. I've got a lot of respect, a lot of time for Bosenhagen, and he's had a great career, but just rubbing shoulder, eating the same foods. Off, and it just gives the other kind of smaller nations that, look, these guys are eating the same as me, training the same as me, why can't I do the same results as them? And that kind of pushes them forward. But I think Benin Girma, as you already mentioned, taking kind of Africa.
I do hope that some team takes a chance on her and her sister. But yeah, from those countries, there's always the visa issues. I remember that when we had the Glasgow World Championships, some riders were also not allowed to compete due to visa issues. So I hope that they can resolve these kind of things, because it's a burden that shouldn't be there if UCI wants a global sport.
Yeah, I think the countries, they don't care. I've been involved with these situations where I had to fly a friend of mine out to Europe and try and sort out visas for Mahawi Kudish to come to the Tour of Britain. And that was a big kind of major kind of hassle as well. But you've mentioned the World Championships. It is down to the UCI to really kind of lobby this to the certain countries, because countries don't care about these sort of issues. But I was in a whole team, and every week I had issues with visas sending riders to certain countries. Circus is in town.
Doesn't look particularly active just yet. Dan Holer, sadly did abandon. He is on the team that was announced by national coach Moerhout for the European Championships, both the time trial and the road race. Mathieu van der Poel is going to be at the road race together with Danny van Poppel, Olaf Kooi, Mike Teunissen, Mick van Dijken, Oscar Riesebeek and Pascal Inkhorn. I do hope that Dan Holer didn't indeed break something. It didn't look good, but yeah, we'll hear from the team later what the verdict is. But yeah, the team already down to 6 riders, the Lidl Trek team that is. They're racing here Jasper Stuyven, Edward Teuns, they're 2 Belgian riders, Simone Consonni, Jonathan Milan, Jacopo Mosco, 3 Italians, and we just saw the blonde manes for Quinn Simmons. His little brother Colby,
37 kilometer. እዚኦም ከዓ ብደቂቕን 34 ካኢትን እዮም ተፈልዮም ዘለዉ ካብቲ ዓባይ ጉጅለ። ስለዚ ብዙሕ ኣይኮርን ዘለዉ ማለት እዩ።
This was normally the time of the year where he had his breakthrough. I remember the Tour of Luxembourg where he was outstanding, was his first professional victory. So hopefully he is going to end this year on a high. Still a minute and 29 as they just crossed the Côte de Allenby. Means that we just crossed into Wallonia. You might know we have three official languages in Belgium: Dutch, French and German. Laurens Rex, the rider of Intermarché Ronti, has as his first language German. There's a small pocket all the way in the east of the country which is German speaking. That's why Belgium also has many governments to make matters a little bit less complicated. That means we've got one more climb to go. It's called the Côte sur les Coteaux, and that comes at 27 kilometers. We also have our Green Kilometer coming up, Ryan. That is in 4 kilometers from now, and that means that none of the riders in the peloton are going to contest these 9 bonus seconds that we have here. It's impossible to get the leader's jersey, which is bluish green here, the logo of the waste management company Renewy, because you can get a maximum of 9 seconds. Then it means that you still have to be third in the bun sprint, which is not what we expect of these guys. But 9 seconds would be nice to get you up there in the GC and get your team car a little bit further up the road tomorrow as well.
هو أبي أقول لك زي أتروالهم هذه هرزة لكن تا هديهم زلوا حموشيم بزح كأكون تفيدين دلوا تفيدين هذا فرعان دلوا تي ولا تا بقول يزودا جماعتنا يبرز هذا تعطوها ليش عقبت على هجي قرب إسران شوعات نصرف كيلومتر ليش عقبت على ماتو بزح سايكون هذا كم زي السجع يكونه سلازس لبرز ساعات ويكانوا بعد بينهم قرما تتعب ودير يا مالتي. Okay.
I think it was the bingo team that took the leader's jersey during the race, so that's very important for a lot of these kind of smaller teams. So I think we will see the riders, battle it out because they'll want to move up in the general classification as much as possible. Okay, it will be all changed. Shortish time trial tomorrow, about 15 kilometers, but it's enough to
tap أقولهم guys tap نقولكم عندنا تيك توك tap نقوله شيء تيجيكم هذا بلا سمتان شيء سوى فرق عندنا.
I think still every second is going to count, and of course Mr. Benelux, Tim Wellens is here, Belgian time trial champion, and I think he's set his sights out and trying to win this race again.
Yeah, and got a huge confidence boost in Poland, winning the time trial there in that national jersey. Tim Wellens, who is from Sint-Truiden, which is also in this part of Belgium, so a little bit of a local rider, Tim Wellens, on the UE Team Emirates team, racing with number 1, also racing on the team Niels Poli, the German, Schurbachs, Alessandro Covi, Juan Molano, Mico Bier, and Olympic champion Rui Oliveira. In this way, I think it's since the Tour de France for Geraint Thomas. And there he is with his, well, it's not the trademark Oakleys. I think the model, is it Sun God that they're wearing, the brand?
Yes.
You know. And didn't they have this model like specifically made for him?
لا قدر خيارات في الفيديو داغنا عسات حدا خالتين كوين داغوت في اللي لا قدر يزغيد له دارجا كركوم هانس ولد نجاري.
They are making their way.
Of course, winning the Tour de France.
Exactly. Beating Tom Dumoulin. It was fair and square. It was better. But we're making our way to the Green Kilometer. So it's not the Golden Kilometer, it's the Green Kilometer, and that has everything to do with our main sponsor, Renewy. Like I said, a waste management company. They also want this to be one of the greenest, if not the greenest bike race on the planet. Well, Brian and I, we covered the Arctic Race of Norway, who had basically the same kind of claim to fame with the full electrical vehicles in the race convoy. But yeah, that's why this is a green kilometer and not a golden kilometer. So how it works, we have a sprint every 500 meters. So it's basically a green kilometer and a half in that respect. 3, 2, and 1 seconds every time we pass these signs. So 9 seconds max for the rider who wins all of these sprints. And in the recent edition of the Tour of Belgium, we've seen a really big battle for those seconds. And in recent years, yeah, we actually saw the leader's jersey change shoulders on the final to that golden kilometer. So it can matter, but most likely not for these 5 riders. I'll give you the names once again. Currently leading is the man with number 194. That is Cyril Dessal. We have Axel Huns there, currently at the front of this group. Lars Kraps for Flanders Baloise, and the other rider for TDT Unibet is Jordi Bouts. And the second rider for Bingo Wallonie Bruxelles with number 197 is Loïc Vliegen. Lars Kraps is kind of looking at his mates there in the breakaway. It's like, are we truly interested in this thing? Are we doing it? Are we going for it? Are we going to sprint for it?
I think somebody has to, somebody will want to, put them up there in the general classification. A lot of looking around, of course, the last chance to get a bottle from the team car. But just taking some seconds now, 200 meters to go, so it looks as if they are going to go for it.
Jordi Bouts is the man going for that first sprint.
He's won the first bout of this competition.
I'll just let that one sink in. Cyril Dessal in second place, Lars Kraps in third. Vliegen, who just went back to the car to get a bottle, is really not getting involved with this thing. Jordi Bouts staying at the front there for the second round of intermediate sprints. Belgian rider, 28 years of age. And there we go with the other rider for the Tour de Titula team. No, it's Axel Huns currently picking up the seconds for the second sprint. With Lars Kraps in second and Cyril Dessal in third. That means we've got one more to go. This is Axel Huns, 22-year-old Frenchman on the team. And the same 3 riders, so Bouts, Dessal and Kraps are going for that final one as well. And now Cyril Dessal tries to surprise the others with a sprint from the third wheel. Ooh. Like Lars Kraps was a little misshift there. And it looks like a 3 from 3 for the TDT Unibet team. Really lovely for all those people who came out to watch the Green Kilometer there, to see a little bit of action. The gap currently down to around the minute mark with our 5 leaders. These are the 2 that sprinted for that final one. Cyril is all in the yellow, and at the front we have Axel Huns.
And your thoughts on the Green Kilometer? For me, I like it, but I don't like it for every stage. For example, this stage, I don't think it makes much of a difference. But like you say, in the Tour of Belgium, it did make a bit of a difference. So I think in some of the kind of GC days, I like it. because some of the GC riders were looking at fighting out. That was quite entertaining. They've been contested, but they were contested there. But I think for the Green Kilometer, for me, it has to be on. It has to engage with the GC contenders. I think to make it work. But it was nice to see that the Breakaway, entertaining us there for what, about a minute and a half.
On the other days, tomorrow of course we don't have one, it's a time trial day, but on the other days it's a little bit closer to the finish. Now it was 32, on the other days it's around the 20 kilometer to go mark. So a little bit closer to the finish line.
kilometer.
So a total of 6 seconds there for the man with number 214, Axel Huns. Cyril de Sal has 5, Lars Krabs has 4, and Jordi Bouts has got 3 seconds. And yes, I do emphasize it's Lars Krabs with an A and not with an E. Otherwise it would be very unfriendly. So this is one of those days, Brian, that correct pronunciation does matter. Lars Krabs. Just going to send a memo to all my Discovery and Max colleagues, because it's just not very kind if we've got that one wrong.
Yeah, he's a good bike rider.
Could have bad days though.
Yeah.
A Breakaway coming back together. Our 5 riders. Louis Vlieger, the oldest of the 5 there. He's 30. This is already his 5th Renewey Tour, or all its previous guises. For Cyril de Sal, the other Bingo Wallonie-Bruxelles rider, it's his 2nd. He raced here last year as well. And the other 3, Jordi Bouts, Axel Huns, the 2 TDT Unibet riders, and Lars Krabs, it's their first time racing this Renewey Tour. I was checking my road book to see if there was a prize involved with getting these intermediate sprints, but there's not.
Then some of the sprints in stage races put up a kind of 1, 2, 3. It's very little when we consider it. Even in Grand Tours recently, you're talking about very little money. Of course,
اللي بتعملها بدل خلال ريو وزمهر يوم دلهم ساعة بجلنا 4-5 كاريت أكمل ريو. لذا عباب بجلة كتركون كريو على عملتي لتريو معلوم عادي.
Saying that, it kind of all adds up, and it's important, depending on how the split is happening. Different teams split their prize money in different ways, whether you're at the race or whether it's in general, all into kind of one pot. But in different splits for different, riders get one split, staff get half a split, and various different ways of kind of splitting things up. So every team is different.
So we're just in the province of Liège, one of the 10 provinces of Belgium. But in about 2 kilometers we make our way back into Flanders, into the province of Limburg. And yes, the Netherlands also has a Limburg. They also have a Slingerberg, and they also have a Limburg. I don't know, this chicken and egg thing, I have no idea who's first with these kind of things. Ooh, bottle bouncing back into the bunch there. And back to Julien Vermoten, Heiko Bastiaans and Sinne Leijsen at the front. Ineos Grenadiers, an interesting team here. We mentioned Geraint Thomas, his heart's a miss there. We have Filippo Ganna, who we saw at the back end of the peloton. Of course, he has a time trial tomorrow. It's not his first race after the Olympics. Silver medal in the time trial was, of course, part of the team pursuit team of Italy as well. But it's not his first race back. He also raced in Germany last week. But Ganna is not on a great day.
No, that's not we kind of commenting it on before in that previous climb. This is not a case of saving your legs. One, he's at the wrong place. It always feels a little bit kind of more difficult at the back, especially in these kind of races where a lot kind of twists and turns and accelerations. Go over the top of the climb, it doesn't exactly go downhill. It kind of opens up a little bit. If this was crosswinds, it would be carnage, but we don't have too much of a wind today. Just look at the flag on the left-hand side. But yeah, Ghana.
Sadly, there is a bout of COVID going around in the Vuelta team today. And Adelsman abandoned. We already saw Laurens de Plus abandoned, but of course that's two different bubbles. It's hard to avoid. So there's a little bit of a wave going around. Yeah, for riders, it can be a rather dangerous thing. Former winner Sonny Colbrelli, ask him what happened. We see Gerben Thijssen moves to the front there on the wheel of Adrien Petit. A little bit of a tailwind as we move back into Flanders. Final bottles, final gels for the riders as we have just over 30 minutes of racing to go. And that takes us to the finish time of about 3:30, and that is around the medium schedule of 44 kilometers an hour.
درجة أبا جلت حوسم على تريوالهم نبينا يبغى نتاون كمية وقت لوريو.
Looks like we have a little bit of a mechanical issue here. Elmar Reinders, looks like his chain was off there. Elmar Reinders, very important in the sprint train for Dylan Groenewegen. Left the Tour de France this year to meet his new baby. So that's a good reason to leave the Tour de France. But Elmar Reinders is important in that sprint train for Jaco Alula. We also have an Olympic champion on the roster with Callan O'Brien, who was of course in that team pursuit with Sam Welsford. But these narrow roads, Brian, they are rather tricky.
Yeah, it could have been worse. I think it's just a case of just making sure you're there in numbers towards the front. No real kind of panic for the moment anyway. But yeah, it could have been a lot bit worse. It could have been a lot more narrow in this part of the world. We see this in many of the kind of different classics. But yeah, the whole peloton still together. We've already kind of lost Dan Hula with the crash. We can clearly see Filippo Ganna struggling. He was just detached a little bit. Not too sure if he's made it back in here at the back. Can't really see him towards the back. So it looks as if we may have lost Filippo Ganna. Like I said just a moment ago, I don't think it's a case of saving yourself for the time trial. That's not the way he rides. His team are towards the front in his Grenadiers, and we know that he's a great lead-out rider as well. Is finishing some of these kind of finishes off a little bit. So I can remember
Thank you.
last year in San Juan when Gaviria won the stage, that Ganna was up there. He went for a long one, and he's very capable, and probably if I was a sprinter, I would like Filippo Ganna as a lead-out rider. But the fact that he's struggling out the back means that something not quite right here.
25 seconds left for our
صباح ناي كرونومتر زبل صباح نبع بينام سيزغون أيكون كرونومتر زبل صباح ورد الماتين غطفلتو نبينا مكانت ريوة ما كميتو الغاز داموتي تأخذ وجه يلا بينام لو رايك ماله بينام يلا كمز سو ماله ريوة.
Everybody's signaling that traffic thing there, and there's still riders going around the other side. We're racing through a rather wonderful region in Limburg called Haspengouw. especially in the spring season. If you need a destination, there's a lot of fruit trees here, and it's absolutely stunning here in the spring season. This is one of the riders to look out for tomorrow, Brian. Matteo Sobrero. Looks like he cramped up here.
Oh, cramp, yeah, it's quite strange that, maybe not looking after himself. Maybe it's been an easy enough stage. You said we're on the kind of average schedule, and sometimes when that happens, that you don't drink enough. It's warm enough, but definitely looks as if he's cramped up there. And I would say that he's an outsider to get a very good. He can time trial well. He's very good at the climbs, but unfortunately for him, he's really struggling now.
What can you do on site? Is it just basically now the mechanic's going to stretch that leg, or is it instant magnesium? What can you do about this situation?
Not often. You see, I think there was one race last year where we saw a few riders with bouts of cramp, but there was a situation here that he cannot do much. I think for anybody watching that other sport, football or soccer in the States, then you see that more often. And I scratch my head at that. It's a 90-minute game, and they're suffering cramp. Just raise your foot and pull your toes up.
That's more for your calf muscles. This seems more like a hamstring kind of thing.
Yeah, but even for your calf muscles, if you raise it up and you push the helper pushes your toes towards your chest.
Well, it looked rather painful. I think everybody who has had cramp before was feeling that with Matteo Sobrero. Might also be that he's going to be one of the first benchmarks tomorrow in the time trial, as it's clear that he's going to be one of our first starters. We go back to the front of the bunch, where we see some collar blocking already. Yeah, he has got Timo Kilich and of course Mathieu van der Poel. Senelais is the man at the front. They also have Sylvain Dillier. We see him there with the bands on his arm. Søren Kragh Andersen, former stage winner here in this race. Sorry? It's a really strong team there for the Alps in the Koning. If we look at Soudal Quickstep, Tim Merlier has got his favourite lead-out man, Bart van Lerbergen here, also Warren van Geluwe. Remember him, surprise winner, one of the stages in the 4 days of Dunkirk. Joseph Tjerny usually also plays a role in that sprint train for the Soudal Quickstep team. If you look at DSM Firmenich, Bram Welt is there with Fabio Jacobsen, John Degenkolb also racing here, Niels Eekhoff, Alex Edmondson. So just like you said a little while ago, Brian, it's not only the A-list sprinters, but also the A-list support team around them.
Yeah, good to see. Your guess is as good as mine coming into this sprint.
I have no idea.
It's going to be rather hectic. You'd have to say, looking at recent results, the favourite has to be Jonathan Milan. It has to be, but we say this quite often. We come in, it's like the Tour de France. We come in, who has got the best sprint, the best form? Nice to see Gava's made it back to the back of this peloton. Important to try and kind of keep him in there. But yeah, and very important for the sprinters. But then again, just looking at the back here, Phil Bahaus, the sprinter for Bahrain Victorious. What is he doing at the back of the peloton with 20 kilometres to go?
Yeah, that's not the place to be, as you would write on TripAdvisor. 19k to go as we make our way to the finish in the town of Bilzen. Or it's actually
ጾታክ ወዳ 69 ተሪፎሎ 69 ኪሎ ሜትር ራክ ማለት ነው
life really difficult for those of you who have no idea how to pronounce Dutch words. So I'll just stay with Bilzen, but it's in the little hamlet of Grote Sprouwen, which is in the region Haspengouw, the beautiful region that we have here with all the fruit trees. This is also the center of fruit syrup production, Brian, for almost 200 years. First more artisanal, now also more industrial. And that goes really well with the cheese that they make here, the rather smelly one in the they have, which is slightly to the south of where we are right now. Haspengouw, really, really beautiful region. We know it from some of the stages in the Tour of Belgium. We know it from the Ronde van Limburg, which finishes in Tongeren.
يرايكم هذا دي guys أيرنا اللي تعيبوا هذا من يرايكم هذا دي هم يلو
quite a few beer brands as well as fruit syrup and cheese. Well, that seems like a good afternoon on one of the sunny terraces here at the finish line. It's a rather small hamlet where we're going, about 1,400 inhabitants. Part of the city of Bielsen, which is a lot bigger, 33,000 inhabitants. This is the moment that our breakaway is caught. Jordi Bouts, Axel Huns representing TDT Unibet, Cyril Dessal, Loïc Vliegen representing the Bingle Wallonie Bruxelles team, and Lars Kraps
ጽቡቅ ጾታ ነተወደይ ዓባይ ጉጅለ እውን ነታ ሃዲማ ዝነበረት ጉጅለ ኣርኪቦም ኣሎ ስለዚ ጽቡቅ ቦላታ ክንርኢ ንቢን ከዓ ብሰላም ክወዶ ሰላም ኣትዩ ክዕወት ተስፋ ንገብር ናይ ጋንቱ ታ ብጫ ማልያታ ናይ ጋንታ ሰጊሩ ኣላ ሕጂ
is caught. Look at that. That is some good camaraderie. Jordi Bouts sharing that bottle there with Axel Huns. Jordi Bouts in a relationship with Michael Bolgaert, pro rider for the AG Insurance Soudal team. Yeah, Brian, this is also not good. Phil Bauhaus, together with Filippo Ganna, the tail end of the bunch. We're not going to see Phil Bauhaus sprint. All this must be one of the new tactics that we're employing, but I rather doubt it.
Look, you never know. I've seen it happen in the past. Some sprinters quite happy sit at the back. They're in the race. They can judge the feel of things. They don't want to get involved. We saw some helicopter shots of some kind of nervousness, a lot of moving around. You can see it now that it's starting to get rather kind of risky now. A lot of movement at the front, left, right on this kind of main roads. You can save so much energy just kind of freewheeling and sitting down the back. Okay, you have to make the effort at the right time, and I think what Phil Bauhaus might be doing is either he's not feeling it today, or he's just going to make, or he's going to get a teammate just to bring him up to the front at the right time. But doing that is a risk.
استيقاظ عبد الهري زلو خافتهم حيالات ولدتي فيليبو غانا 9 كيلومتر حيال زي
sitting down the back of them is very relaxed rather than the kind of nervousness of the front of the peloton. It's a risk, and we've seen some teams do this in the past as a unit, but in general it's a lot easier to be near the front.
I had a lovely chat with Michael Lennart, winner of the prologue of the Tour de l'Avenir, and I asked him,
ናይ ቢንያም ጋንታ ረ ወድ ጋንታ ሒዙ አለ ትሮሎ
he turned pro straight from the juniors with Ineos Grenadiers, the Canadian Michael Lennart. So what is one of the things that you learned from your more experienced
the ጋንቱን ቢንያም ወጥ ማሎ ሰለስ ያምረው
knowing when to be focused and when to be relaxed, because if you need to be focused all the time and don't have these moments of relaxations in a race, it's very tiring.
Like in the governor, I guess, like in the governor.
Tour de France, for example, because even in the flat stages, it's just 5 hours of being completely focused. So yeah, that was an interesting perspective that I never really thought of.
Yeah,
when can you relax and when should you be focused?
That's the life of a sprinter. That's what you don't kind of realise, that it's the kind of you sit all day in the peloton and you get judged in the last 200 metres. It's hard to do, but racing in Belgium is always hard to do as well, because you have to keep concentration. You cannot stop. Maybe with Sobrero, he was concentrating all day on the road surfaces, the changes in direction. Maybe he just forgot to drink as much as he needed or required to do. We'll wait to find out what the situation with him is. It looked like cramp. But yeah, it's one of these situations that you have to learn to run. A crash at the back there, big crash at the back, and stopping half the peloton there, Josie. So yeah, that's a very unfortunate one there. And it looks as if is this Jacobsen?
Yeah, no, this is Johan Jacobs. We have 185 Max Kanter, 183 Yevgeny.
ብዙሓት ወዲቖም ኣለዉ ቢንያም ድሓን ደሎ ቢንያም ወላ ሓንቲ ይኮነ ደንወሪ ቢንያም ምስ ደጋንቱ ቅሚት ዘሎ
Two riders there, three riders there even. Yeah, Kanter being assessed here by the doctor.
Well, there's a concern here for Visma Liseberg, so it must be a rider of note.
I think it's actually Olaf Koy. Is Niels Eekhoff.
ቢንያም ቅሚት ኣሎ ምስ ደጋንቱ ቅሚት ዘሎ ቢንያም ናይ ቢንያም ኣትሸገሪዮም ደጋንቱ ንቢንያም ምስ ሒዞሞ ቅሚት ኮይኖም ስሕቡ ኣሎ ማለት ፀወታ ክውዳእ ስለ ዝቐረበ ሕጂ
Visma Liseberg. Is it Van Dijk? I think it's Mick van Dijk, isn't it?
Yeah, there's two riders concerned for two specific teams here, so I can only say that it has to be a rider of note.
ቢንያም ወላ
Mick van Dijk. He is moving. It is Olaf Koy. Ooh, there's blood there on it. Oh, this is not good. This is a DNF. Yes, a DNF. Olaf Koy also on the roster for the Netherlands for the European Championships. Yeah, it's hard to see what happened there, Brian. Do you have an educated guess what might have happened there?
No, I think it's just slight corner, maybe moving up, are coming together. Crashes like this, I was just about to say that they have kind of knocked off a little bit at the fronts. It's courtesy of the riders that were involved with that crash. No one likes it. Everybody's been in these situations before, so no one really wants to kind of take advantage. So they kind of knocked it off a little bit. But this will soon change as the riders get back from the crash, and just makes it a little bit more nervy now that we've had that crash. Makes it more nervy that riders want to be at the front now. They don't want to be involved with any more crashes and run in towards the finish.
I think the other Visma Liseberg rider was either Bertrand Hagenes or Mick van Dijk, but Olaf Koy, there was blood on his jersey. It was torn. His speed went for Niels Eekhoff. That's not good to see. Adrien Petit is doing a monster job here at 11.9 kilometers from the line.
هكا ጽبوق سبعة الرواز ودقانتو نبينه بتعمل صبوق سرح على الروا كمية كوينو صبوق سبعة له
Some riders are coming back now, bro.
The last 20 kilometers there, but when it's a crash, whether you're in front of it or actually hear it, it just makes you a little bit more nervous and makes you want to do your job and stay at the front a little bit more because it's a lot more safer. And this is what we're starting to see now. That crashing is really kind of motivated riders now to concentrate on the job that they need to do. So Van Gilly in the cars here, he's another rider that was involved, and he's another rider that's very important for Alpecin Deceuninck.
We also see Jake Olula moves to the front there with Dutch national champion Dylan Groenewegen. We have European champion Christophe Laporte still in this peloton as well.
حيال ولا تاي حكاية والله ولا يمدل لهم زيد أكيد يمدل لهم.
Now the speed is really going up. I'm really amazed to see how relaxed Tim Wellens is manoeuvring through that peloton. He looks very confident here on his home roads, although he's been living in.
يا نساء هذا اللي عجز كان مودة تام عيلم قطلوا له. وما تغير ما شعبينا نقول تعدل الله وين مالت.
We haven't mentioned Groupama FDG just yet. They were supposed to race with Sam Watson here, but he's not recovered from a crash that he had. So they're racing here with.
صباح ناي كرونومتر ورد رجلا. دهرت صباح يجلوت ناي بعد بينام جبرة. صباح قلنا كرونومتر رجلا ماتي.
They are moving to the front there in that dark blue with the white helmets. Groupama FDG. Didier is making his way back to the peloton through the convoy. But this is a really wide road, Brian, but it's mighty.
Philipsen ريو أنا لكم Philipsen ريو لهم Philipsen ريو
Yeah, this is the back Philipsen. You know, not
Philipsen
going
ريو
right
تعرف
for
سنة
opposite de Koning.
أبدأ هرز ريو
Never saw Philipsen come down. Must have been caught behind the crash.
Philipsen
So
تعرف ولا دارت ريو
it's a little bit. He's now in the back of the peloton. So just what I was saying, it was starting to build up, getting a little bit more frantic. With this, just adds to it all.
Philipsen أبدأ هرز تعرف ولا
We had Oliver Nass a bit. Hop and off.
Can't do that. You
And
see
off.
the wave of the rider behind him.
You can't do that. Remember that guy in the Tour of Flanders who kind of bowled over the half of peloton by doing this move? This is something that the commissaires will have seen. I can
They
do
see
that.
them doing further down. The thing is,
Philipsen
there has
لكم
to be
ريو
consistency here. If such is the rules now, but unfortunately, you know, that's the case. It has to be so.